So restorative yoga is basically just the yoga of relaxation. If yoga and napping could have a baby, that's restorative yoga. And the poses that we're going to do, we're just going to do a couple poses because we hold them for a while so that the body has a chance to really relax. And we're going to try to do ones that sort of, the thought is that they provide a kind of refreshment. So rather than make us feel sleepy or dull, at the end of this, we'll just feel kind of refreshed and relaxed. Now, we're going to see if it works, but hopefully that's what's going to happen. So for today, you're going to need a throw pillow and a blanket, or you can use 2 blankets. If you don't have any throw pillows, you can fold a blanket up to look a little bit like this. So we're going to start with a throw pillow underneath us, and the way that I turn the throw pillow is so that it's on the diagonal, so that I've got 2 corners, that's where my shoulders go, the head towards one corner, and my tailbone near the other corner, okay? So that this is really not going to get close to my tailbone, not that close. I'm not very tall though, so maybe not too bad. But I'm going to put my shoulders in the center of this, and that sort of sets me up for essentially what is a fish pose, okay? So if you've ever done the fish pose where you sort of, it's basically cobra upside down, we're going to do that but with a pillow. And then you can use your blanket to provide a little bit of support under your legs. Now, the blanket that I have right here, this is my favorite kind of yoga blanket, by the way, but it's really robust. It's quite a thick blanket. So if you have a thinner blanket, you might want to roll it up a little bit more. I'm just going to fold mine in thirds, and that's going to give me a pretty good amount of support here. So I'm going to put the throw pillow underneath me such that when I lay back over it, it feels like kind of the bulkiest part of the pillow is underneath my shoulders. So I'm going to have to back up just a little bit. Yep, okay. So this gives me this feeling like my head is dropping down a little bit and my chest is elevated. So that's the fish pose shape. Now, if it's difficult for you to have your head lower than your heart, then don't do yours this way. Put support under your head so that your head stays level or slightly higher, okay? So there are a lot of reasons where you might not want your head lower, including retina issues and blood pressure issues, anything along those lines. So if you want your head supported, just put another blanket up under here or scooch down your pillow so you've got that support. And for me, having this kind of slightly, I'm going to need to go a little bit higher, slightly further back position is nice. So then, snuggle your shoulder blades underneath you, and I let my arms, like I can take my arms straight out to the side, and that will give me a bigger kind of sensation. There'll be a little bit of a chest stretch, but I don't really want big sensation. I want it to be enough sensation that I feel a little bit of kind of lift here, but not so much that it calls attention to itself. I want to be able to relax. So we're going to get in this shape and we're going to stay for about the next 8 minutes. So again, if for any reason you start to feel dizzy or lightheaded, get your head up so that your head is elevated rather than dropping back. It usually takes me a few tries to get this just right. So also don't be afraid to make little adjustments. Oh, I have got a plethora of yoga props near me, and I'm not sure if they're blocking the view or not. So I'm going to take a few of these out and just set them off to the side so hopefully you can see okay what I'm doing. I don't usually get to use the word plethora in a sentence, so that was fun. Now, if you'd rather not have anything under your legs, you can take that out, or if you want your feet on the floor like that, you can do that as well. So you can adjust the legs. Just make sure it's a position that you can relax into and get comfortable. Reasonably so. So we want there to be a yoga pose, right? I mean, this is a yoga pose, but a yoga pose done as relaxed as possible. end of the pillow is holding onto my head. It's not just free falling there. There's a support there. So if it feels like your head is kind of falling out into space, adjust so there's a little bit of support under you. Every body part should have something holding it. Once you get yourself settled, you just let yourself relax. And you might have to consciously insist, although that seems like an oxymoron, insist that your body relax. Like you might have to consciously let go and unwind the muscles around your eyes and in your jaw, around your lips. I'm going to subtly lengthen the back of my neck now that I've been here long enough that things are starting to let go. Checking in again. Sometimes I find muscles have habits of holding stress and tension, especially at times when things are unpredictable and a little bit, challenging. So whether that's a personal situation that you find in your life that makes things challenging, or global pandemics and other things, in any case, like during times when there's a little bit higher levels of stress in my life, I find that my muscles will kind of hold tension more habitually. And so if I keep coming back to those places, and for me that's neck, shoulders, upper back, face, jaw, and probably for most people, because those are the places where the cranial nerves that are responsible for our ability to relax are touch in and become, deal with different responses to stress. And so if we can consciously relax the muscles of the eye, consciously relax all the muscles around the mouth and the facial muscles, and kind of bring a sense of kindness and openness and sweetness to your face, that can help to let the other parts of the body get the message to relax as well. We're about halfway through here. And so I am noticing what happens for me after about 3 or 4 minutes is that there's sort of like a gear shift. Like it just settles into gear a little bit. And my body feels a little bit more at home in the pose. Sometimes that means I have to do a little adjustment because what was comfortable at the beginning has become slightly different. So don't be afraid to make a little adjustment. And then settle back into this sort of sense of letting go. And just letting the breath be deep and natural. That you breathe a little more shallowly, you can focus just purely on a nice, deep, gentle breath. Not too forceful, but letting your diaphragm do the work. Okay, yogis, we've got 1 minute left here. So if you've lost track and your mind was off wandering, just bring it back to your breath. Take 2 more big breaths. Now, to come out of this, pardon me. So to come out of this, I'm going to put my feet on the floor, and I'm going to get the blanket out from underneath my legs for a moment. Okay. Then I'm going to roll to my side and get this pillow out from underneath me. Now, before I sit up, I'm going to take a moment to just come back onto my back and move my head a little bit side to side, move my legs a little bit side to side. And I even like to do this, right? Take the arms really forward so the shoulder blades wrap around the edges, and then rock on the muscles in my back. If I get my shoulder blades out of the way, then I can get to those muscles that live between my shoulder blades, and that feels really nice. And I'm not opposed to going up and over the edges of the shoulder blade. That also feels good too. It's just nice to get to that space right between those bony spaces. Oh. Usually they live in there like little pieces of armor, so I like getting to the muscle that lives in there. Okay, now we're gonna do a twist, and we're gonna set this up from a seated position. So I'm gonna roll to my side, and letting my head kind of dangle, I'm gonna press myself up, and I'll just let my head kind of be the last thing that comes up. Okay. So we're going to do a reclining twist, and it seems like, why are we getting up, Candy? Well, we're going to put a blanket underneath our upper back. So the pillow we're going to use in between our knees, potentially, or under the bottom leg. But we need a blanket to do this, because we want a little bit of a lift. So it's almost going to be like a side bend and a twist kind of had a baby. Now, the way I'm gonna set this up is I want my blanket to kind of fit my upper back. So for me, that's folding this blanket into thirds, okay? So I folded it the other way, so that it's a little wider. When I did my legs, I folded it on the longer edge, okay? So for some of you, like if you have one of those Mexican style blankets or something along that line, you probably just have to fold it in half. And it'll give you kind of a space that's about the size of your upper back. I don't want it to come too far down my back. My neck is gonna hang out so that my head is supported on the floor, but not on the blanket, okay? So I'm gonna put this right in that upper back region. So if you need an extra, I have a short neck, so I might need an extra blanket. So I've got one up here, and if I do decide I want one, I've got it handy. It won't take me long to get it, okay? So I'm gonna lay down on my side first, and I want my upper back on this blanket, so I'm gonna scooch to the edge, and then I'm gonna let my head kind of relax as I roll into the twist. And yeah, I think I would like to have a blanket for my head. So I'm gonna grab this extra blanket, and I'm gonna smooth that out under where my head is gonna go. I don't think I want that much. Let's try half of that. Okay. And given my space limitations, it might take a second to get my situation all organized, but take the time. All right, so I'm gonna roll myself so that my upper back is slightly elevated, okay? And I don't want my head to dangle. I want it to be pretty close to level. So I'm gonna, just make any adjustments you need to make sure that there's the right amount of support there for your head. Now, because we want good support. So now my legs, I'm gonna kick the top leg a little over the top of the stack. And this is where the pillow comes in handy. So I like to have this little bit of support. Now some people can just wrap their legs one around the other like an eagle. And for me it's helpful if I have a place to land that leg. All right, so then I'm gonna stretch this arm out, and this is where this pose can get a little bit spicy. So I wanna make sure that I have, sometimes it's helpful to bring the arm a little lower. Okay, yep, that's the spot. So if I'm too high up, my arm feels like it's dangling. So I'm gonna put it right on that blanket and let that hang out. And I'm gonna turn my head in the same direction as my legs. But some people like to turn the head the other way. So if you are in that camp, then turn your head that way. Now we're only gonna stay with this pose for about 3 minutes. Compared to the other pose, that's fairly quick. But it's still, it's enough time for us to release this little bit of tissue around the chest and a little bit of tissue around this outer hip in a really gentle, easygoing way. Okay, so not too much, not too little. Just this kind of open. And we're focusing on getting the upper body kind of in the opposite shape of leaning over your desk, right? So that's the sort of refreshment idea, is that we're just giving the body a different shape than it spends a lot of time in. During the day. Just did a little experiment, since we're about 1 minute left. Like, if I turn my arm differently, what happens? And I decided that no, I had my arm in the right place to begin with, so I went right back to where I was. But you could do like a little experiment, right? Like, what happens if I bend at the elbow, or put my hand over on my rib cage, or something like that? That's actually kind of pleasant. But but in any case, you can experiment a little bit and see if you change it up a little, does it add a little bit to the overall delight of your pose. got about 30 seconds, so take some nice deep breaths. So we're going to bring the leg back to the center point, and then the other. And then just roll into your back for a second, and we're going to let just a little moment of movement happen. Little windshield wipers. And then essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of roll to the other side. And again, I'm going to roll all the way onto my side. Okay, that's the first part. And then this side, for me, is usually a little bit spicier. So I'm actually going to elevate my head just a little bit more. So I'm going to fold my blanket one more time. So I've got a little bit higher position because I don't think I'm going to get around as far. Okay, so as I stretch this side, yep. I'm definitely not going to get around as far. So I'm going to put my pillow right in between my two knees so I have a little bit higher support for this hip. And then I'm also going to use this block I've got over here. You could use anything. You've got an extra pillow, whatever. So my arm has a place to rest because it's not going to want to go all the way to the ground like the other side. For whatever reason, probably from an old injury, my right shoulder's much tighter. So I'm still going to turn my head to the left because I'm looking the way my knees are going. And I'm going to still let this right shoulder find its home on the floor so that the bones are resting heavy, right? I want the bones of my legs to be resting on the floor or the pillow or each other. I want my shoulder bones to all be touching something. But you might need like a little bit of a lift or a pillow or something under your arm. And then we're going to breathe. Feels like I could probably go a little further over with my legs. So I'm going to do a tiny bit of an adjustment just so I can get a little bit more twist that way. Without spicing up the chest muscle and shoulder situation too much, can I let my legs kind of add a little more twist to my spine? And that's feeling okay. Again, if it gets too spicy, if it starts to feel unstable or it starts to feel really like it's really pulling on you a lot, back off a little bit more and add more support. slowly peel this leg back around to the center. Draw my whole self around. Now, we're just about at the half hour mark. So we're gonna do one more pose. And this one we're just gonna hold for about 10 breaths, okay? And then you can decide whether you wanna do some Shavasana on your own or you wanna do some additional practice otherwise. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is a supported shoulder stand. So you can use the pillow that you had at the beginning. It's a little squishier, but very pleasant. Or if you have a yoga block and you wanna use that, you can. Now I'm gonna stay on this blanket with my shoulders so that when I lift my hips, there's a little bit less, or a little nice soft pressure, okay? So the block goes right under the pelvis. So I'm gonna lift my hips, hopefully, slide this block in here, if I can get around all the bits and pieces of the blanket and my yoga mat. And the hamstring cramp that I'm apparently gonna get. Okay, so I want the block under my pelvis, but not under my spine, okay? So it should fit right under the big bones of your pelvis. And then that could be it. You just leave the legs and rest. And I like a cactus or put my arms over my head usually. You can let the legs stretch out if you want a little bit more of a hip flexor stretch. So this is not technically a restorative pose, but it is a supported pose. And so it has some of the flavors that we're looking for. And if an inversion is okay for you, again, inversions can be tricky, so if they're not right for you, don't do them. But inversions can be nice for kind of refreshing the, the body and letting the lymphatic system drain a little bit. And they have kind of a weird way of helping to relieve or reduce the amount of stress hormone that's in our bloodstream. So I've put my legs up in the air and I'm giving them a little shake. And again, that is just to help with lymphatic movement. I'm gonna put them back down. And we're gonna stay for about 5 more breaths. Again, it's not a very long time. Now to get off of here, I'm going to inhale and lift my hips, and then exhale down, okay? Then, I'm going to roll to my side, and again, letting my head kind of be the last thing that comes up. I'm going to sit myself all the way up. And take your time, because we were just upside down. And then just pause for a moment and see how it left you. So for me, usually this sequence doesn't leave me feeling sluggish or sleepy the way some restorative sequences do, which are meant to be that. They're meant to kind of help you fall asleep. This one is really more of kind of a splashing cold water on your face on a hot day, like a nice sort of refreshing little break in the day. So hopefully it worked that way for you, and if it didn't and you're ready for a nap, well then maybe take a nap. Whatever works for your workday. If you're watching this at 2 in the morning, maybe look, do another pose where you lay on your belly for a little bit longer, or lay on your back a little bit, see what happens. So we're gonna take a moment just to say goodbye to each other with a big breath. And a big sigh. Enjoy the rest of your day, yogis. Namaste.